Hello, everybody. Welcome to another video. Today, we're going to recap my Eternal Weekend experience. I had an absolute blast. I've seen a lot of these videos running around. I hope you're not completely tired of them just yet. I didn't do a lot. I did not do a lot of winning at Eternal Weekend this year, but I still had a great time. We'll start out the video with a quick little shout out to our boys here at the Legacy Small Talk podcast. I got to hang out with Eureka, Geodude, Jared, and Romario this weekend. And I've got a great picture to show here as well. This is Eureka and Geodude Jared placing that sticker onto my deck box. And I made them hold hands while they did it. So that was really cool. I'm hoping this sticker holds up on my deck box so that I can always be representing my boys whenever I bust out my deck, you know. So that's the first picture of the day to Eureka and Geodude Jared. Let's go over, I guess, the deck list that I played, and let's see how this works. Maybe this is just a complete disaster, but at least you get to see some real Magic cards. So I played Doomsday at this tournament. I knew that it wasn't like super well positioned, but I still wanted to play it anyways. I just love playing the deck. I think it's good fun to play. I think it's still really strong when it works. I was having some trouble figuring out how I wanted to fight against these blue-black decks in the tournament, and so that always proved a little bit difficult. I ended up landing on a creature juke sideboard guide, similar to like past Eternal Weekend, or similar to past Doomsday decks. So yeah, I'll lay out the deck here, show you the art choices and whatnot. So this is the Disruption package I went with in my deck. I played 4 Force of Wills, 2 Thoughtseizes, 2 Flusterstorms, and 3 copies of Daze. I chose the SpongeBob Dazes because if you look at them really closely, they I don't know if you've ever looked at this card in paper, but it almost makes you feel dizzy when you look at it because the card's actually blurred around Mr. Krabs, which I think is really funny because when my opponents are always looking at my exile pile, I want them to feel a little bit dizzy, forget about the cards that I might have in my pile, you know? So in the past, I've been playing upwards. I think last year at Eternal Weekend, I played like 7 discard spells in my 75, and this year I just decided to play 2. And the reason for that was with Tamiyo being in the format, I feel like the discard spells just aren't quite as good as they once were. Tamiyo often can rebuy the card that you take, and then it just feels like your turn 1 Thoughtseize wasn't that good, but you still need at least 1 Thoughtseize to put in your pile to beat Consign to Memory. I opted for Thoughtseize over Duress and other discard spells like Cabal Therapy, just because it also hits Nadu Winged Wisdom, which is important. If you saw my last video on Magic Online where we trophied with this deck, we ended up taking our fair share, or at least 1 Nadu with a Thoughtseize, and if that was a Duress, we would have lost that game. Oh my fucking god, there's a cat. Did not account for this. All right, she's gone. Oh my god. All right, so yeah, this was the Disruption suite that I went with. I'll put those just kind of off to the side. 2 Thassa's Oracles as my win conditions. This one right here actually was one of the cards that I picked up this weekend. It's a foil Mystery Booster 2 Future Sight treatment of Thassa's Oracle, which I think is freaking sick. I love this version of Oracle. And one of my friends actually has one of the foil versions of the Secret Lair of Thassa. And so I'm going to be, that he no longer wants. And so I'm going to be replacing my other foil Oracle with one of the Secret Lair Oracles, and I'll have a 1-1 split between the Future Sight frame one and the other one. I thought I might as well play both of the sick Thassas, right, instead of just one of them. So yeah, that's those are the Oracles that I had, and I was really happy to pick this card up. I think I traded in some like random cards that I no longer use to put toward that. I ended up only spending $25 on it, and then the cards that I traded. But yeah, it was awesome. So we've got 2 copies of Personal Tutor here. Different than the 4 copies of Personal Tutor that I've played in the past, and that's because I was also playing Tamiyo's in this deck. So in my recent videos, I was on 3 Tamiyo, 2 Personal Tutor split, and the night before the event, I ended up cutting the 3rd Flusterstorm to go up to the 4 Tamiyos. I love Tamiyo. I think the card is really strong. It like adds a lot to the range of possibilities, both pre-Doomsday and post-Doomsday, using cards like Edge of Autumn to add extra mana, returning like a Doomsday that might have been Force of Willed, just proving problematic for our opponents by creating a kind of fog of war. In a big tournament like this, there were a number of games where my opponent had no idea that I was on Doomsday because I led on a turn 1 Tamiyo and they just put me on Reanimator. Or they'll just like play to try to answer the Tamiyo, and then I end up winning the game with the Doomsday that kind of comes out of left field, kind of surprising my opponent. But I still wanted to have access to 2 Personal Tutors in the deck because there's a number of matchups where you want to board out your Tamiyos. So I was boarding out Tamiyos against like all of the Ancient Tomb decks, pretty much just the Ancient Tomb decks, and then also the Nadu decks. Like we just would rather just put Doomsday on the stack against Nadu and get them dead rather than farting around with creatures. So yeah, but the Tamiyo's in the main deck. I don't know. I just really like the card. I'm kind of sad I didn't get to play with Eureka's Frog Tempo Doomsday deck last year. I just played straight Turbo. But this year I was like, you know what? No, Tamiyo is awesome. I want to use Tamiyo before she gets the axe, which I expect to happen. If not at the next banning announcement, then certainly the one after. Consider, obviously, really good in the deck. Really nice in my deck as well because I was playing the spicy one of copy of Reanimate. I made a lot of Consider Reanimate piles across the weekend, and the Consider Reanimate piles really, they're really good against Disruptor Flute, but they also allow you, so like against Blue-Black Tempo, if you look at my sideboard guide, which is now posted on Moxfield, if you go to my Moxfield link and click on Primer, you'll see the complete sideboard guide that I used for Eternal Weekend. It was a sideboard guide that I worked on developing with Kai when I had some coaching sessions with him. And it has a clear plan for all of the main decks in the format. How successful the plan worked out for me at Eternal Weekend is up in the air, but I do still think that the list is awesome and worth trying. And that is just available for free over on my Moxfield. So just go to the deck list. I can link it in the description here. Click on the primer section, and it'll just bring up the sideboard guide that I was using. In that guide against the Blue-Black Tempo decks, I was cutting my all of my cyclers just to bring in Barrogoyfs and removal, basically, to kind of become a bomb-heavy deck. And then it became clear, though, that like I would still leave 2 Doomsdays in my sideboard guide, and so I needed a way in certain cases to get to an Oracle quickly. And so by leaving Consider Reanimate in while still cutting all of your cyclers, you're able to build like a Consider Bin Oracle Reanimate pile, which gets you to an Oracle via Reanimate for a mere 2 mana, which is pretty sweet, giving you still that turbo speed if you can squeeze a Doomsday through. But I was also happy just to make a Doomsday pile including Barrogoyfs and other cards as well. Check these bad boys out. So I've been looking for some sweet brainstorms for my deck, and honestly, I can't afford the Mercadian Mass Brainstorms foil. Those are just way out of my price range. I had some of the FNM foil Brainstorms, but man, when I saw these, I was like, these actually look so nice. They look so nice in the foil treatment, and we're zoomed in a little bit. But it kind of is cool to be zoomed in, I think, on the classic Mercadian Masks art. You get to really appreciate this wizard's face, And I really, really like the way these look. And then obviously with like Doomsday as well, you do get to play a lot of Future Sight cards, right? And it kind of matches the vibe with the Doomsday that I got last year at Eternal Weekend that was signed also in the foil Future Sight frame. And then your cyclers as well are also in the future sight frame. So there's like a bit of a trend there, right, where you can have a number of your pile cards having the future sight frame, which I really like. So yeah, those were the brainstorms I was using. Obviously, they couple very nicely with Tamiyo. You can flip your Tamiyo off like a lotus petal on turn one. And then we've got these sweet Dungeons and Dragons ponders, which I don't know. Some people seem to not like, but I really think the foil treatment on this one is just out of this world. We might have a cat appearance coming here as well shortly. But I really think that it just looks really nice in foil. It's not focusing. There we go. Oh my gosh. Like what a beautiful card. It matches. It's got the orange tinge, right? On the dragon. It kind of matches the orange on the brainstorm, and then also the force of will. There's hints of orange obviously in Doomsday and Tamiyo as well. So everything is just aesthetic as fuck. But yeah, 4 ponder, 4 brainstorms, consider as the cantrip suite, and then also the clues off Tamiyo. Also pretty awesome throughout the weekend. What else have we got to say about the deck here? Oh, we got the mana. So I went for 3 petals and a lion's eye diamond, which is pretty classic. No Cabal rituals in this version of the deck. I got to meet Margaret. She's such a nice lady. She signed my Doomsday LED, and then I've recently picked up, I guess we'll just talk about that now. I've recently picked up other LEDs as well, which she also signed for me. So I've got a full set of signed LEDs by Margaret, and it was wonderful. I was in line waiting with my friend to get these LEDs signed, and we were just chatting, and then some of you who follow the channel, just of course, right? Like if I wanted to find any of my subscribers or followers from my channel, like going to wait in my line to get LED signed would be like a good place to start, right? So I was just talking, and it's like 2 or 3 people in line were just like, "Oh, your voice sounds really familiar. Are you the semiotician?" I was like, "Hell yeah." And so we got to meet some awesome people throughout the weekend. I'll talk more about that in a second as well. But just while it was on the forefront of my mind, yeah, if you want to meet fellow Doomsdayers, just go wait in line to get your LEDs signed. They look great. Margaret told a story about the original painting of Lion's Eye Diamond, which she, I guess, had, and no one really expressed much interest in purchasing it. And 2 brothers, I guess, reached out to her and offered her $300 for the original painting of Lion's Eye Diamond, and she was so thrilled to sell it for that price, she said. And I mean, that's wild. And I guess it was recently changed hands again, and they the people who sold it actually gave Margaret something like 10% or something of what the painting sold for, and she just laughed and she was like, that was a really good month. So it's unfortunate that it went for $300 the first time around, but whoever ended up with the painting and sold it again wrapped her back into the deal. And so that's just like really, really kind and nice, and I thought that story was awesome, so I wanted to repeat it here. And then we've got the back to the deck list. We've got the Alpha Rituals, which I picked up last year. I'm just going to be always playing the Alpha Rituals. I need to figure out how to track down Sandra to get these bad boys signed, but god damn, I love me some Alpha Rits. And the rest of the deck is just we've got the Cyclers. I just played 3 because I was playing Tamiyos. So I think when you're playing Tamiyo, you get to cheat on an Edge of Autumn if you want, because you can return the Edge of Autumn, you get the clues. You're just generally playing a little bit of a slower game, maybe where you don't mind passing the turn because Tamiyo is padding your life total by plussing or whatever it may be. So just 3 Cyclers in the list this time around. And then we've got the 3 altered Doomsdays by Hummingbird. Of course, I shared these on the channel before, but I'm still rocking the Hummingbirds. And then, of course, the signed Doomsday from last year as well. Never not going to play that one for sure. Still love personal tutoring it to the top of my deck. The mana base was quite straightforward. Four underground seas. Got the island and the swamp. The island altered by Mark Poole to have some comets coming down expressing Doomsday. And Mark Poole's signature has to be one of the better signatures. I really like the way the Mark Poole signature looks. Four deltas, miscellaneous blue fetches, and one black fetch to facilitate the basic swamp, but then Undercity Sewers, Cavern of Souls to round out the mix. 16 lands. I was wavering on the swamp. I ended up adding the swamp in, but honestly, the swamp lost me a game or two. So I don't know if you want second surveil land or ninth fetch. It's all kind of up in the air to me. Like, it's kind of personal preference. I find that the swamps are good when you're like, you can go basic island, basic swamp into Barrow-goyf on 3 without getting wastelanded, and then the 2 basics can also like just hang around being wasteland proof to crack your Tamiyo clues, which is also awesome. Moving on to the sideboard here. So that's the sideboard that I actually ended up registering in the main event. So for the Ancient Tomb decks, we had 2 Force of Negations consigned to memory for the colorless ones, and then Brazen Borrowers and Hide on the Ceiling. Never got to cast Hide on the Ceiling, but there were a number of times when it would have been excellent. And I either didn't have the mana because I got wastelanded, or I milled it with my own Jace. We'll talk about that in a second. So basically, since I've got the Tamiyos in the main deck, I wanted to go back to playing the Barrow-goyf creature juke. And so what I would do, I mean, you could check out the sideboard guide, but I think that Barrow-goyfs plus Brazen Borrowers is like actually a pretty neat little package. Because the Barrow-goyf, if it connects and mills a borrower, you can return a removal spell to your hand, which can kind of keep the pressure on, helping the Goyf connect again. And then the fairies themselves are also win conditions in a long grindy game. In my last leagues, I was playing 2 dismembers, but I ended up swapping one of the dismembers out for a long goodbye. I expected and was right that Tamiyo is going to be the most important card of the tournament. And so I wanted to have one way to kill both sides of Tamiyo uncounterably. And that's like a really nice thing to start trying to cantrip into if your opponent's like, you know, threatening an ultimate Tamiyo that will just obviously Barrow-goyf you. So yeah, I kept those in. Then what else? Jace, Wielder of Mysteries as an alternative win condition for Doorkeeper Thralls. Consigned to Memories. Kozilek's Command. I love bringing this in against all the Eldrazi and Mystic Forge decks. It's really nice to know that you can just backdoor into a Jace off LED in certain spots and just not have to worry the first thing about a Kozilek's Command. I did play some Graveyard Hate, mostly because against Reanimator, I was actually planning on... So, like, in the past, I've been very anti-creature juke. Like, I was very, like, if you have Barrow-goyfs, only bring it in against Mono-Red Stompy and Blue-Red Cutter. Obviously, that's not enough to justify playing Barrow-goyfs in your deck. I did play against Mono-Red Stompy. It was rather a red-white initiative, but close enough. And then I didn't play against Cutter, but I was still bringing these in against even Reanimator and against Blue-Black Tempo. And I was talking a lot with Eureka, and I was asking Eureka how he would sideboard against Doomsday, and it was basically like cut 2 Brazen Borrowers, add 2 Consigns. They've already got the Force of Negations in the main deck, and they just continue playing their Reanimator strategy. And I thought, you know, like, not everyone's going to play like Master Eureka did. Shout out to Eureka, by the way. I think he's, in a way, one of the unsung heroes of the weekend. He was a villain in some respects playing Reanimator, but he, I believe, just took down the entire High Roller event on Friday without losing a single match. I think he went 5-0-2, draw in, like double draw into top 8, and then took down the entire top 8. And then ended up finishing 15th in the main event as well. Made, like, I think he might have even made day 2. I mean, I'm sorry, Eureka, if I'm getting this wrong, because I've heard so much information, but I'm pretty sure Eureka, like 6-3 day 1, got into day 2, and then just didn't lose a single match on day two and went something like 19-3-3 or something on the entire weekend, which is just like an incredible record at that high stakes Magic. He was in the top 16 and won the high roller. So that's an excellent weekend for our boy Eureka. Oh, he's upside down, but shout out to Michael Reed. What a fucking legend. Um, but yeah, sorry. He was saying that, like he's cutting his borrowers and just bringing in a couple consigns. And I was like, if that's the way that Reanimator's boarding against me, then I'm like fully fine. They're cutting their only main deck removal in Brazen Borrower. Why don't I just board into Barrogoyf's Brazen Borrowers, Dismembers, Long Goodbyes, and I even brought in Hide on the Ceiling as technology, because if your opponent reanimates your Barrogoyf or Tamiyo, you can hide it on the ceiling and return it to the battlefield under your control, and then it also can like clear blockers and shrink Murktides. And there was a time when against one of my Reanimator opponents on the weekend where I could have done this, but I had gotten double wastelanded, and so I only had like one land, and at my Hide on the, I was just fucking staring at Spider-Man in my hand wanting to kill myself, but I'm still here. And so yeah, I think like I never got to use Hide. I think the idea, like theoretically it's awesome. It can reset Chalices of the Void and do all like these crazy things. But the mana can be tight. And so yeah, we'll keep that in mind. So yeah, this was the sideboard. And again, the sideboard guide is available on my Moxfield. The link will be in the description. It's totally free. All I ask is if you use it, consider dropping a subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I don't have a Patreon or anything like that. I don't know that I have enough time to justify setting one of those up just yet. We'll see. Some people actually brought that up to me, saying that they would contribute to a Patreon if I had one, but I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I've got enough time to put out extra videos. Sometimes I'm already like behind the gun trying to get out one video a week with the school, and by school I mean the postdoc and the philosophy stuff. So all I ask, if you haven't already subscribed, the best way to support me now is just to drop a subscription to the channel. I think if we get to 1,000 subs, I might be able to start making some pocket change, which is kind of cool, I guess. But until then, the best way is just to hit that like and subscribe button, and drop a comment or whatever thanking me for it. That's all. I kind of don't mind making public the information that I had for this tournament, and maybe it can help you, I don't know, in your future games before the bans or whatnot. So yeah, that's the deck list itself. I guess I can run through off the top of my head the matches that I played. What cards do we want to look at here? What cards do we want to look at? Let's look at... Well, we just need something nice on the screen while I'm talking. Let's put the Doomsdays on the screen. We'll put an Alpha Ritual on the screen. I guess the signed LED is pretty nice. And then I'm feeling right now a Brainstorm and Tamiyo, just because I fucking love Tamiyo. And let's get one of these Oracles on the screen as well, just to give us something pretty to look at. So yeah, we got down there on Thursday. I went to the event hall on Thursday. I got my Lion's Eye Diamond signed. I got my Chrome Moxes signed, and Dan Fraser also, I was like, just do whatever you want to them, Dan. Like, I don't care. I'm playing a Storm deck, and I'm not sure he really knew what that meant. He's like, you like look to the guy who was taking over the, like, taking care of the cash and stuff, being like, he wants me to draw something for a Storm deck. And so he just started drawing these like sweet metallic lines on the Chrome Moxes, which you can kind of see here going up and around. I actually think it looks pretty friggin' sick. I mean, like, Dan Fraser's a goddamn legend, right? And so I'm like, just do whatever you want. Like, I honestly don't care. Make them look cool, draw some scribbles on them. And so yeah, we got the black and silver shadow signature with a couple of nice embellishments made by the master Dan Fraser himself. And so that kind of makes my Mox diamonds look pretty awesome. You love to see that. What else did we get signed? Ooh, I got my mascot. This is my Sarah Angel signed, an Italian Sarah Angel. I love this art. It's obviously iconic. Doug was there. I was like, Doug, scribble something on there for me. I actually use this card sometimes as my guardian angel. I use it to divide my sideboard from my 60 cards from my main deck. And then one time a judge was just like, you shouldn't have this Sarah Angel in there. And then I had to remove it and I got really sad. I was like, come on, bro, I'm playing Doomsday. It's in a different colored sleeve. Like, you think I'm going to slot this into my deck and just like crack LED for triple white and cycle into a Sarah Angel to kill my opponents? Like, if I did that anyways, I don't think I should get a game loss, but like maybe a match win for just being an absolute baller. But nonetheless, whether it's in my deck box as my guardian angel or not, this is my Sarah Angel, and I really like it. So yeah, we got that signed. Demonic Tutor for Glarb Doomsday in CDH. Got that, the DT signed as well by Doug, which is awesome. Good old heavily played, severely chewed up Demonic Tutor. But this is the one that I use in Glarb when I'm doing my commander things. So we got that as well. I got my heavily played Wheel of Fortune signed, and Daniel Gellin was very nice. I didn't realize that he was married to Heather Hudson. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, sweet signature on the Wheel of Fortune, and then he also drew the wheel symbols for me on the bottom, which I thought was a nice touch. So I'm happy to have that. This is right now in my Tarmogoyf, my Tarmogoyf commander deck. I have like a Modern Horizons 3 Tarmogoyf commander deck, and I've just put some dumb shit in it to make it funny. Like, I think it's funny when you have that commander out, you cast Wheel of Fortune, just discard a bunch of Tarmogoyfs from your hand, and they all come into play, and then you draw more Tarmogoyfs. Speaking of Heather Hudson, I got my Hermit Druid signed by Heather. This is a mainstay also in my Glarb CDH deck as a second Doomsday with Memory's Journey. So my Glarb list is all about making Doomsday piles, and I wanted to be able to have Hermit Druid so you can Worldly Tutor or tutor up a Hermit Druid, put Hermit Druid onto the battlefield, and then you can mill your entire deck because I'm not playing basics. And then you flip Memory's Journey, and then Memory's Journey is your Doomsday. You may make like an Oracle pile, or if you have Glarb already out, you can just put Jace Wielder of Mysteries, like shuffle it back in on top of your deck. You draw the Jace, and Bob's your uncle. You can cast it right off the top of your deck with the Glarb out as well, which is pretty sweet. I guess I already showed you the Lion's Eye Diamond. So those are all the cards that I got signed. And then the last card that I picked up, which I was really excited about, was this City of Traders. It's in very good condition as well. There's like a very subtle mark on the front, but I've been wanting one of these for a while. This was the last card that I was missing from Tony Scapone's Black Saga Storm list. And so I was very happy to pick up the City of Traders, and obviously can also play it in Commander as well. So yeah, that was those were all the kind of like vending and stuff that I did on Thursday. And then I went out to a steakhouse with my boys. Oh, here's the steak I got. It was a coffee crusted New York strip with like a shallot butter sauce. Very nice. It was quite expensive, but it was very, very nice. This is at the Capitol Grill, I think it's called. It was a great time. This is also me, I believe, at the Capitol Grill looking at my steak, which is awesome. This is my boys who I came down with. This is Rich, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And this is Troy, a.k.a. Harry Houdini, MTG. If you've ever seen Master Houdini online, he may have cast some cephalid breakfast and put you into the dirt. But these are some of my boys from local. They're enjoying their French onion soups. I knew that I was going to be eating a goddamn lot of cheese that weekend, so I got some lobster bisque instead. I want to talk about this in a second. I'll also talk about that in a second. There's Rich, just the nicest guy. There's me with lobster bisque. There's us at the Capitol Grill. This was awesome. Good time. Great place. Chalice of the Void. Troy had like an ear infection, so I thought it would be funny to make him stand next to the Thoughtseize. I'm like, just get this fairy will like come in there and clean out your ears. I'm dumb. Yeah, so we went out to the steakhouse, and then we came back home, back to our Airbnb, jammed a couple of games of Magic, drank some beer, went to bed, and then Friday rolled around. We wanted to do a bit more vending and checking stuff out at the tournament hall. I think we got some Starbucks for breakfast. Went over on Friday, did some more vending, hanging out, and then we went to Jimmy John's for lunch. Got a goddamn sub. And then went back to the convention hall. There was the 130 challenge, and so this was the first. I signed into that. It was you enter it, submit a deck list, and there was like maybe close to 200 players enrolled in that event, and we were single elimination. We were playing 5 rounds, 5-0. You get a bye for the legacy main event. I played 1 round of Magic. So I sit down against a really, really nice opponent, very solid player. I actually ended up getting dinner with them by like coincidence later on in the evening. They were friends with Brandon and some of the other Doomsday guys who I went to get some dinner with on Saturday night. And so, yeah, I sit down against this opponent. I go like turn one. I think it was just like polluted delta, fetch land, go. My opponent Zach plays a basic swamp on one, and then just thought seizes me, and I fetch for Underground Sea. I flusterstorm their thought seize. I go back to my turn, and then I've just got the Bob's Your Uncle. I've got Dark Ritual Doomsday Brainstorm land in my hand, and I was like, okay, they didn't play an island, right? So like I'm not going to get dazed here. I'm going to put the Doomsday on the stack, and if the Doomsday resolves, they probably don't have a force either, right? They had just thought seized, and I'd flusterstormed it to protect the Doomsday in my hand. And so I just went Dark Ritual Doomsday. It resolved, and then I just made the Brainstorm pile. I was like, I don't think you've got anything. If you do, then you've sandbagged and fucked me, I guess. But we got there. I just killed them on turn 2, game 1. I saw the swamp and the Thoughtseize. I put my opponent on Reanimator, better safe than sorry. So I brought in the full 10 card juke, including the Nihil spell bombs. And then game 2, I made an error in my mulligan decision. So like my hand was like, I had some like cantrips. I didn't have a Barrogoyf, but I had Cavern of Souls, Underground Sea, and Cavern of Souls, Underground Sea, and Lotus Petal. And I decided to mull my Lotus Petal to the bottom of my deck because it was just a source of mana. I was like, I'd rather replace this. Like, it's kind of card disadvantage against blue. I would like to ponder into a land and ideally a Barrogoyf, and then I'll be like in a pretty good spot. But this was just a game where my opponent had a bunch of wastelands. So it turned out that they were on blue-black tempo and not blue-black Reanimator. That was made clear with some Nethergoyfs and some other cards like that. I got wastelanded once or twice, which was really bad because I wasn't able to like resolve my Barrogoyf until it was far too late. And it was one of those situations where like if I had kept that pedal, I would have been able to have a turn 2. Like I pondered on 1, and there was a Barrogoyf in the top 3, and so if I'd kept that pedal, I could have had a turn 2 Caverned Goyf against blue black tempo, which is pretty good. Like it's not the best, but it's pretty damn good. And I really regret bottoming that pedal because basically what ended up happening was like I got the Barrogoyf into my hand and maybe another cantrip, but then I got wastelanded, found a land, got wastelanded again, and I didn't get to resolve the Barrogoyf to like turn maybe 6 or 7, and by then I was on my heels, reeling backwards, so that wasn't good. I got crushed that game. And then game three, I don't exactly remember how it went, but we played a really, really long game. It was a really long game. I ended up resolving a Barrow-goyf, and I got wastelanded again in this game. This talk of the town was that I think in my testing, I didn't play against many wasteland heavy hands against these blue-black decks, but the wastelands really crippled me this weekend. Like, I just didn't seem to have dark rituals for my Barrow-goyfs. I had to hard cast them, and then things became very precarious. Basically, I had a Goyf resolved, and my opponent had like two Bowmasters out, and we had fought over this Barrow-goyf. So I played Barrow-goyf, they forced, I forced back, they forced, and then I forced back again. And I might have left my opponent with like one card in hand, and my only card was Dismember. And then they eventually find this Nethergoyf, and they play this Nethergoyf, and now they have two cards in hand with the Nethergoyf out, and it's a 4/5, and my Goyf is a 5/6. And they were able to set up basically a double block with their Nethergoyf to trade with my Barrow-goyf and then assume dominance on the game. But I had Dismember in my hand, and I was like, okay, we just had this giant force fight like 2 turns ago. You've only presented a Nethergoyf since. I'm like, I'm just going to attack my Barrow-goyf into your creatures. You're going to double block, and then oh, this was it. It was, I think they were both 4/5. So we had a 4/5 Nethergoyf and a 1/1 army token, and there was no creature in the graveyard, I believe. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to attack, force Zach to double block with Nethergoyf plus their army token, at which point I would dismember their Bowmasters, which would pump my Goyf. By 1 toughness, meaning it would survive and eat both the Nethergoyf and the Orc army token and kill the Bowmaster. So it would have been like a huge blowout if it worked. But Zach was a goddamn master and had drawn Force Blue card in those 2 turns without any cantrips or anything like that. And so I attacked. They made the double block. I dismembered the Orc. They Force of Willed the Dismember, and Bob was Zach's uncle. Then I fell then to like another Bowmaster, and I just started drawing like cantrips and stuff like that. Oh yeah, it was the second game I remember. It was a Wasteland, and then they had Disruptor Flute, and they had Thought Seize me on 1, and they Disruptor Flute naming. Sorry about that. We lost our camera for a moment there. Yeah, in game 2 against Zach, I had gotten Thought Seize, and he saw a Dark Ritual, and he actually Disruptor Fluted naming the Dark Ritual, which means that it kind of stopped because he had Wastelanded me. It meant that I couldn't cast either Doomsday or Barrow-goyf, so it's actually a very smart name on Zach's part. And the turn he did that, I drew a second ritual. I drew a second ritual for turn, and then I drew a third ritual. So yeah, just a soul read on the Disruptor Fleet. I was like, oh, this is not my weekend. I cast a Brainstorm to try to tuck back my my 2 of my dark rituals. And then Zach also was playing Flusterstorm in his blue black tempo deck, and so he just flustered my Brainstorm, and I was just up Shit's Creek without a paddle. I was dying to a Nethergoyf or something, or a Kaito, I think it was, with a couple of dark rituals in my hand that I just couldn't even cast. It was pretty sad. So I was promptly eliminated by Zach. Yeah, fantastic player, really, really nice, chill dude. I was very happy to meet him. And then, yeah, I ran into him again at dinner on Saturday night, so we got to chat a little bit more. I think he made day 2, which was good. Great for him. So that's awesome. So yeah, I was removed from the event in the first round. It was a single elimination. It cost like $30 American to get in, and I'm Canadian, right? So the exchange rate's really, really bad. It was like close to a $50 tournament to enter. And I was kind of like, I don't know that I want to just spew more money to potentially just like, only get to play 1 match of Magic. Honestly, the match against Zach was one of the better matches I had all weekend. But yeah, I just didn't really want to spew more funds on side event challenges. So yeah, I did not play any more Magic on Friday. We went out to a pub for dinner. So I wanted to go to Nikki's, the Thai place, on the Friday night, but it didn't come to fruition. And this is a funny experience. So we went to I don't even remember what it was called. I'm going to disparage this place, so I won't even name it. It was some shitty fucking pub that we went to. And right here. So I get to this pub, and one of the weekend, man, I found it so goddamn hard to find a fucking vegetable in Pittsburgh. So I really wanted to goddamn some vegetables, man. I've been eating like Jimmy John's and Starbucks and steak, like Papa John's pizza on the way down, man. I just wanted a goddamn vegetable. So we go to this pub place, and we get there, and it turns out that they only sell pizza and sandwiches. And so I'd had Jimmy John's for lunch, and the day before on the way down, we had just gotten a Papa John's while we were charging a Tesla, and we just ate this Papa John. So the two food, I already had a sandwich and a fucking piece of pizza, so I didn't want more pizza or sandwiches, but the options weren't there. I was like, at least there's beer. I wanted this Oktoberfest beer that they had on tap. My friend ordered before me and got the Oktoberfest beer, ran the keg dry, so I couldn't get that. Then I was like, I'll try this Pilsner. She starts to pour this Pilsner, and then it just like spitters and foams out. And so there's only like 3/4 of a Pilsner. So then I left. And so then I ordered another beer instead. And then that one also, the keg also pittered out. So she gave me 2 beers to the price of 1. So this is me just holding holding my 2 3/4 pints. I guess, yeah, I have 2 Ryles of beer. There's a philosopher named Gilbert Ryle who apparently would, at the end of his working day at Oxford, would go to the pub near a pub near Oxford and would order a 3/4 pint of beer, and the bartender started calling it a Ryle of beer. So here's me with my 2 Ryles of beer, dissatisfied that I didn't get my Oktoberfest beer, but happy that I got 2 beers. I mean, that part of this experience was cool, but then I was like, all right, I really want some fucking vegetables, and they had salad on the menu, but the salad only came with the sandwiches. So I ordered a sandwich with a Caesar salad on the side, and she's like, we only have spring mix, not romaine. And I was like, in that case, can I get the Greek salad on the side? And then she's like, the Greek salad cannot be ordered as a side. It's only a main salad. And I was like, this is fucking crazy. So I ended up getting a Caesar salad with some goddamn greens, some spring mix greens. And it was all over just a mediocre experience. And if I didn't have these 2 beers to drink, I would have been much sadder. So yeah, that was the worst meal of the weekend. I would have rather Jimmy John's or the Chipotle that was near my goddamn Airbnb. But alas, I get dragged to this pub. I get to double fist some beers here, some Edward Ryle hands. And yeah, that was that. That was the Friday. Went back to the hotel, ended up jamming a bunch of matches against our boy Rich here, who was playing Blue Black Tempo. And yeah, we split them exactly 50-50, and I made some like pretty crazy piles. So I was like, I knew, the Blue Black Tempo matchup was going to be hard, but I felt pretty prepared going into the main event, and going into the main event, we did. So I arrived Saturday morning. I'm pretty goddamn rested. I'm feeling good. I went to bed at like 10 or 11. Those sandwiches just put me out. And I'm freaking amped for this tournament. I saw like Eureka in the morning. He was there jamming some games already. What a baller. Was chatting to like Harain and some other great people. Then I basically get my round 1 pairing. And there's an image taken from the other side of the screen right here. This picture of me right here. This is the picture of a guy who goes to Eternal Weekend and then looks at his round 1 pairing out of like 900 and whatever players, and notices that he's paired against his buddy, Kyle Clementino. Where is he? This motherfucker right here. This guy, this baller, this all-around good guy plays Stifle Knot. And my round 1 pairing, Kyle took this image of me just like with my deck out, knowing that I'm paired against Stifle Knot. And it wasn't even like, my deck's like not bad against Stifle Knot because I have the Jace in the sideboard. I've got the Barrowgoyf Juke. Like I can do things other than try to win with Thassa's Oracle. The issue is I play against Kyle very frequently at my locals. He often beats me because Stifle Knot is, like, I mean, any Doomsday player knows Stifle Knot is a hard matchup. But it was like Kyle, of course, knew what I was on too, right? So like any other Stifle Knot player might have thought that I was on Reanimator or some other blue black deck and not played as though I was on Doomsday. But Kyle knew I was on Doomsday. He knows my list. We were like sitting beside one another when we were laying out our decks, making sure our deck lists were all good, right? He knows that if he jams a turn one Torpor Orb with Force of Will backup and it resolves in game one, there's nothing I can do about it. And so that is what happened in game one. And then in game two, the game was a little bit longer. I ended up resolving a pre-Doomsday Jace. And this was after like I had brainstorm locked myself. And then I milled myself with Jace and I milled over one of my Doomsdays, which I didn't know about. So I knew a card I didn't want. There was a card I wanted underneath or didn't know about underneath, and it was Doomsday. So I had milled it to a Jace. And then on the following turn, he had like made a bunch of constructs and a dreadnought. And then I came back to my turn. I'd like hardcast a Jace, so I had a bunch of mana, and I go to plus Jace, mill myself again, and then Hide on the Ceiling is on top of my deck, and I just mill Hide on the Ceiling and draw fetch land and then die. But if I had drawn, like I mean, it's correct to mill myself, but if I had milled Kyle instead and drew the Hide on the Ceiling, I would have been able to clear, like with my 4 mana, I could have cleared both of the constructs and the dreadnought, which would have been a huge blowout. And maybe would have allowed me to stabilize with my Jace. But it did not happen that way. He killed Jace and then killed me on the following turn with his 12-12. And so yeah, I show up to Eternal Weekend and just got crushed by my friend in the first round on Stifle Knot. And I was like, I mean, I'm usually pretty good about, like, not getting too rattled in events. Like I think I'm a pretty chill go lucky guy. Even when I'm losing, I'm usually losing with a smile on my face, and it's my friend. I mean, I love Kyle. He's a really, really good guy. But yeah, I was just like, what? Like the odds were very, very slim. So yeah, you can, imagine a kind of bad beat story for the introduction to the Legacy Small Talk podcast that goes something like this, like, Eureka, Jared, Romario, you'll never believe it. I traveled 6 hours to Eternal Weekend with my buddy Kyle Clementino and got paired against him in round 1 out of 900 players, and he was on Stifle Knot, and he went turn 1 Torpor Orb with Force of Will backup. What are the chances? How unlucky, like it was kind of like that. And I was kind of dejected, and that image of me is just a dejected semiotician just being like, oh my God, this is just terrible. So yeah, that all happened. I got crushed by Kyle round 1, so I started my tournament at 0-1. Round 2, I pair into a really nice guy playing red white initiative. He was an old school player as well, so we were shooting the shit about old school, which is pretty awesome. Game 1, I think I won it in 2. I'm pretty sure I doomsdayed them at some point. Maybe forced like a Chalice of the Void and then just sent with the Doomsday and won. And then game 2, I like boarded into the Barrogoyfs and Brazen Borrowers. I thought they were on red Stompy, but it turns out they were on red white initiative. And so I resolved an early Barrogoyf and started getting to town. I had like a Fable of the Mirror Breaker, so like the creatures just weren't lining up very nicely against my Barrogoyfs, and the Barrogoyf like connected, returned a Brazen Borrower, and then I had drawn my second Borrower. But my opponent was starting to claw out from under the Barrogoyf. They had a Seasoned Dungeoneer, and then the Mirror Breaker had flipped, so they were getting like double. They could make double Dungeoneer to go like deep into the dungeon. But I actually just never used Petty Theft, so my opponent was at like 7. And so in their end step, I just flashed in Brazen Borrower, struck them for 3 in the sky, putting them to 4. I passed back, and this was the turn that the Fable's coming off Summoning Sickness, so they make like a huge double initiative. Like the following turn, I'm probably not clawing back from like multiple. Like they would be going into the Throne of the Dead 3 on the following turn. They made like a massive like play, got a bunch of value and advantage, and then in their end step, I just flashed in the second Borrower and got them for 6 in the sky which the Bearwife would not have been able to finish the job. So that was like unfortunate. So my opponent knew about the first borrower, but they didn't know about the second borrower. Um, so I was 1-1. I was like, okay, all right, let's do this. I lost round one last year, and I almost won every round after that. So like, let's run it back this year. So we get the 1-1, and then I got paired, I believe, against Reanimator, I think, in round three. And this opponent was super nice. They run this DMV Legacy League. The card is still in my deck box. If you're watching, opponent, I think I told you about my channel. If you're watching, shout out to the DMV Legacy League. If you're in the area, there's a QR code here that you can maybe scan for information for a upcoming 10K Legacy event. So I'll just hang this out on the screen here. Feel free to, I don't know, I can't remember exactly where they are located, but I don't know, hit them up. If you're in the area, this might be a good tournament for you to go to. I don't think I'll be able to make it, but yes, I'll make that public for you. My Reanimator opponent just destroyed me. I don't remember the details of the match. I feel like in one game, I got beaten down by a reanimated Atraxa or something. And then I remember the second game, they had some Murktides that I could have reset. Oh, yeah, the second game was really interesting. So I had a nil Spellbomb, which was shutting off like a reanimate, but then they had jammed a Murktide Regent, which meant that if I Spellbombed them, it would pump their Murktide to lethal to kill me. But if I didn't Spellbomb them, they might be able to reanimate. So they like entombed an Archon, and then they untapped, but they didn't have the reanimate. They just ended up having second Murktide, and they jammed the second Murktide, which pumped the first Murktide for lethal anyways. And they went for like an attack, and I was looking at this hide on the ceiling in my hand, but I'd been wastelanded and I only had 1 mana, so I couldn't reset the Murktides, and I died. But it was a really, like, my opponent played it very, very well, in my opinion. The Nihil Spellbomb to pump the opposing Murktide, meaning that like the way that they played it was, I thought, was very smart, because they played the Murktide first, because then if I Spellbomb, they would pump the Murktide, which meant that it kind of like the Murktide was kind of like a counter spell for my Nihil Spellbomb, which is a sweet play that I hadn't really thought of before. So yeah, I got dispatched by Reanimator, and then I paired into Eldrazi. Game one, and he was also a fellow Legacy of the Norther, which was pretty cool. I guess. I mean, I'd rather just not get paired against my peers, but it's how it went. So I played against Eldrazi. Game one, I had like the Tamiyo hand, which isn't very good against Eldrazi, and I ended up reanimating a Thought-Knot Seer. So like I forced their Thought-Knot Seer and I reanimated it. But it wasn't good enough. Obviously, they're a better creature deck than I am. I was just trying to get a cantrip when I trade with like another Eldrazi or whatever. But I got overrun in game one. And then games 2 and 3, I poured out the Tamiyos, the Flusters, bring in some bounce spells and extra force and negations. And I just had the Stone Cold Nuts in both games 2 and game 3. It was like turn 1 Dark Ritual, Doomsday with Force of Will backup. And it's very hard for Eldrazi to beat that. So I got them, and I played around Wasteland in my pile, beat them both times, games 2 and 3, off a quick Dark Ritual Doomsday. And then I played against Mystic Forge, which is a great matchup for Doomsday. The downside of my deck is that, in the dark, game 1, you can have these hands that look exceptional, right? Like a Flusterstorm Tamiyo hand, and then you can just pair into Mystic Forge. Your opponent plays like Manifold Key on turn 1 or something. You're like, fuck, this Tamiyo sucks. And so, yeah, I kept a hand that would have been great against anything but an Ancient Tomb deck, and my opponent just jams game 1, Ancient Tomb. My hand just did not line up with what they had. I eventually was able to set up a Doomsday, but it was off of a Lotus Petal. And my opponent jammed Karn on their turn. So I think I had personal tutored Doomsday to the top of my deck and passed with 2 lands up and a Lotus Petal in my hand. And then my opponent jammed Karn. I couldn't play the Doomsday, and then I was dead to a Lattice on the following turn. Game two did the same thing as against Eldrazi, board out your Tamios, your Flusterstorms, board in good magic cards, and just focus on being a Doomsday deck. And I feel like I got a really good, like, destroyed them turn game two pretty handily with a Dark Ritual Doomsday with some counter magic backup. And then game three, I kind of fucked up, I think. Yeah, almost embarrassingly so. So I was wavering on my hand. My hand was like, it was a double Dark Ritual, Ponder, Thoughtseize, and maybe something else. They didn't have a Doomsday, but I ended up keeping my hand. And in retrospect, I should have mulled looking for a better hand because it was a turn two a cantrip away from a turn two Doomsday with something else. It was like one of those hands, but the something else was the second Dark Ritual, which I figured I could use to beat a Disruptor Flute, right? So like if my opponent goes turn one Tomb Flute, I can go turn two. But I could ponder for Doomsday turn one. If I find it, then turn two, I can go land Dark Ritual, Doomsday through the flute, which is like pretty sweet, right? So the second ritual is like not bad. And I have the Thoughtseize where I can take their like problematic permanent like Karn or the Ring or something like this. So I decide to keep my hand, even though it's not like perfect. Like I would have rather just had the Doomsday in hand with the Force of Will, obviously. I kept the hand. I thought seize my opponent, and their hand was like really bad. They had a key on the battlefield. They had a key, Fleshraker, and the One Ring in their hand, but they were 1 mana short of casting the Ring on their next turn, I believe. And usually when I play Doomsday, I just don't care about the One Ring at all. Like I'm actually happy when my opponent plays it because it means they've like tapped out. But in this particular spot, the One Ring was definitely better than the Fleshraker. And for some unknown reason, I decided to take the Glaring Fleshraker. I think because I, at that point, didn't have a guaranteed Doomsday in my hand, right? So there's like a world where the Fleshraker can run away with the game and I die really quickly. And they could guaranteed cast the Fleshraker where they couldn't guaranteed cast the Ring. So I took the Fleshraker. 100 fucking percent should have taken the Ring. That was just so poor magic because I passed the turn back to my opponent. They ripped the fucking like Urza's Saga, or no, Urza's Tower off the top of the deck, had like the Nexus out, and now they had like enough mana to both play the Ring and use the key to untap it. And then this led to like another key, and they just dumped, like, they did like the Mystic Forge thing very, very well. I think they jammed like the Ring, tapped the Ring, untapped the Ring, tapped the Ring, passed the turn. I ponder and set up a Doomsday. So the Doomsday was there, but I had to pass the turn again. For some reason, I had to pass the turn again, and my opponent just goes off. Obviously, I mean, they have double key plus Ring, and they ended the turn with double Disruptor Flute out, naming Doomsday, and 3 copies of Kozilek's Command in their hand. Now, when I had pondered the turn before, there was a double Doomsday, so I put like something on top, which I drew, and then it was Doomsday to draw for turn, and then another Doomsday. So I go to my turn, right? And my opponent's just kind of like, like there's no way Doomsday's being cast. I knew I was dead, but I could cast the fucking Doomsday for 9 mana. So I looked at my opponent, I'm just like, I'm dead, but I'm going to put Doomsday on the stack. And he kind of smiled, and I just go like, Lion's Eye Diamond, Dark Ritual, Dark Ritual, Cycle Edge of Autumn, hold priority, crack LED. I like bring myself down to 1 land, no cards in hand, draw the other Doomsday I'd floated on top, and just slammed it on the stack for 9 black mana. But I had only 1 land out and no hand at that point, and I was like, if you show me a Kozilek's Command, I'll concede. And he's like, how about 3? He just shows me 3 Kozilek's Commands, and I was like, all right. So in my mind, I won the game because I got to cast a 9 mana Doomsday. Not everyone gets to do that. But in retrospect, like, I don't know why the fuck I didn't take the One Ring. Like, they would have played Glaring Fleshraker, and then I just would have won. Like, I literally would have just won if everything else remained the same and they had a Fleshraker. It would not have been enough to kill me. The Ring most certainly just buried me in the end. And so, yes, there I was at 2-2 or 2-3. I guess I was there. Yeah, 2-3. And then I got paired against Goblins. And just kind of, I mean, I just got there rather handily. I was pretty funny. There was a goblin lackey, which I'd like flipped an early Tameo, and so the lackey just couldn't even deal damage to put a Muxus into play. Um, so yeah, I like got there game one with the Doomsday, and then game two, my opponent led on like Ancient Tomb Unlicensed Hearse, anticipating the Baragoyf juke, and I just like jammed the Goyf anyways. Like I kept all the Doomsdays in, but I figured I might as well bring in the Baragoyfs because goblins sometimes can, throw a bunch of boys down and really pressure your life total. So this Baragoyf, they were like controlling it, and I like attacked, and then I set up a long goodbye on like a Horde Master, which ended up like pumping, like giant growthing the Goyf into a mill, which then let me get ahead of the hearse. I was kind of playing with my food a little bit, but the Goyf ended up returning 2 street wraiths, and I had this Doomsday in my hand, and I just waited until I had 5 mana. And then I had all 3 cyclers in hand and just cast Doomsday, cycled into Force Blue card Oracle, with another Force Blue card in my hand and won. And their hand was like very Pyroblast heavy, but they had tapped out of their only red source the turn prior to like cast a Goblin. And so I was like, okay, now's my time to act. Red mana's not up. And we got there against Goblins. So I was 3-3. I was like, okay, I just need to win. Is it 3 more rounds? Yeah, 3 more rounds to make day 2. Like it's certainly achievable. Then I paired into Blue-Black Reanimator again. My opponent was really, really nice. Really cool dude. Said that he was just getting into Legacy, hadn't been playing Legacy that long. I think he was on the Eco Baronin list using Eco's sideboard guide, which is obviously awesome. And so yeah, game 1, they did the sick Reanimator play where they just blind flipped Archon of Cruelty to a Undercity Sewers. and then also had Force of Wills to stop my Force of Will on their Reanimate. So they got me pretty handily there. And then game 2, we went into like a super long game. I don't 100% remember how it ended. I just remember always feeling like I was like 1 mana short of jamming a Baragoyf, but I felt like I lined it up pretty good. Like I had like a Nihil Spellbomb out to stop their Reanimate package. I had a long goodbye to kill a flipped Tameo. And eventually they just resolved this Murktide that I couldn't stop in time. I couldn't get a Baragoyf down. So I felt like I had all the things that I needed to win. It's just like, and like the first like half of those things lined up really well, but then there was a point in the game where my opponent was able to kind of turn the tides and really take control. And I don't remember exactly how it went down, but I remember knowing that my tournament was at its end. They had a 4-4 Murktide. That's what it was. But I was at 4, and I had just, I think, secured the ability to jam a Goyf. So I just decided that with the Murktide out, I was at like 2 life. I knew I was dead. And so I just cast a Thoughtseize and killed myself as a joke. So I put myself out of my misery. I fell to Reanimator, and then I just decided that being at 3-4, it had been such a long day. I was very, very tired from playing Doomsday all day, and all the rounds were going so long. Like in your head, it's like, oh yeah, 9 rounds. That's just 2 Magic Online leagues. But I can play 2 Magic Online leagues in like 3.5 hours, 3 to 4 hours, right? But every single round went to time, like obviously because there's so many players, but then like went like 20, sometimes 30 minutes over time. And so it just felt like such a long day. And being in this convention center where it's just like, you just feel like the air's dry and everything's crazy. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna drop out of the tournament. It was a fine run. I'll just get my like Hermit Druid signed and just go watch some people play. So that was my Eternal weekend. It was a 3-4 finish. I did not make day 2, but I had an absolute blast. And I should have said this at the beginning. I'm really sorry to wait until 1 hour and 9 minutes in, but honestly, the highlight of the weekend for me was meeting so many of you folks who are watching the channel and enjoying the videos. there's like a sense in which when you're doing this, it's just numbers on a screen, right? You like post a video, oh, got like a couple hundred views on the video, or oh, there's another subscriber. Like that's pretty cool. But we're pretty far away from 1,000 where things can start, turning quicker. Um, and I met so many people at Eternal Weekend that like, I honestly couldn't believe how many people like either recognized me, came up to say hello, thanked me for making videos, introduced themselves. I swear, like I'm not exaggerating. I feel like at least like 40, maybe even 50 people came up to me throughout the weekend just thanking me for making these videos. And I thought that was so cool. It actually meant a lot. It kind of and it's really nice to know that there are, like real people out there watching and enjoying the stuff, but also just to hear about your tournament experiences, what you're playing. Like some of you were even like, like I'm not even really playing Doomsday. I just like watching your content. Like, whoa, what the hell? I'm like, that's crazy. There's like non-Doomsdayers who are interested in this or like starting to try to learn the deck and they just enjoy watching more content. Um, I mean, I asked all of you for your names. I really should have remembered all of them, but I don't. I teach philosophy, and it takes me a while to learn all my students' names in the classroom. So I'm really sorry. I should have been like writing them down so I could shout you all out. I remember Ben. I think someone named David. Uh, I mean Darth Dog. I ran into Darth Dog. What a legend. Darth Dog, like when I ran into him, he had just gotten a buy for the main event. He's like, yeah, I showed up. I'm borrowing a bunch of cards. Wasn't intending on playing the main event, but I just like rolled 3 Forge decks and energy deck to 5-0. I've got Spell Pierce in my deck because I couldn't find Flusterstorm in time. And he's like, I guess I'm playing the main event now. And then Darth Dog made a run into round day 2. And we were chatting a bit after, ended up playing against like a bunch of really solid opponents. Like I think Darth Dog played against like Juju Bean, John Barber, Bosch and Roll, maybe Hank Sang, some others. Yeah, basically just like had like a Hall of Fame run of like famous people. Made day 2, which is really awesome. And then I met Zach, who was on Turbo Doomsday, and made day 2 and got the Tendrils of Agony. I believe Zach finished 30th overall in the event on a very sick looking Doomsday deck. I'll probably end up playing it on the channel soon. But yeah, shout out to Zach and Darth Dog for making day 2. I think they were the only true, I don't want to say true Doomsdayers, but they were the only 2 like maining Doomsdays into day 2. And then the exception also that we had our master Eric, who I never met before, Artisan, made top 8 with Doomsday. And I mean, Artisan is such a nice guy. Really nice guy. He also rock climbs, so we had some common ground there. And just the most chill, like measured, calm, like aura guy. And it was just a pleasure to meet. And he made a deep run with Doomsday where he had main deck Entomb Reanimate and then sideboarded into Doomsday. And I got to watch some of his matches later in the tournament. And he's an exceptional Magic player. And I'm very happy to say that tomorrow night, Artisan and I will be recording a league with his Doomsday deck. And we'll talk a little bit about his tournament, get some insights. Oh, we got a cat showing up here. Hopefully they don't stand on my expensive Magic cards. We've got that coming through. So that is awesome. I'm very excited to have this video that I'm going to be doing with Artisan. I think it's going to be good fun. You get to hear some other perspectives other than mine. I'm still learning Doomsday myself as well. So selfishly, I'll be learning from these masters as well. And I hope to have more collaborations coming out on the channel as well. So I've been reaching out to the master himself, Wonder Pro, who has agreed to do a video as well in the near future. We're still like working out the details on that. And I also met Samantha Murphy this weekend, and I think that once there's some bands, she wants to wait until the bands, but I'm gonna have Samantha Murphy on there to make some like to do some tempo Doomsday action or some like control Doomsday action, or we'll just be passing the turn a bunch. Um, uh, I might, yeah, and there's others that I might reach out to as well to do something with Eureka. Okay, Sophie, these are kind of expensive. Let's not put your paws on the alpha rituals. So yeah, look forward to some sweet collaborative content. That was one of the things that like one of the main highlights was meeting all you who are watching, and then also making some connections with some of the other Doomsday players who have been playing this deck more than I have. And they're going to graciously donate some of their time to make some more sick videos for all of you to enjoy. So that's also awesome. I'm very happy to have that coming down the pipe for something for you to look forward to. But yeah, everybody who came to say hello, like honestly, it was awesome. I'm sorry I didn't have anything to give you. I honestly was intending to make some Bob's Your Uncle tokens. But it just, with the academic job market, I just was not able to get that set up in time. And so, yeah, yeah, meeting everybody, it was just so great. It was so nice to put some faces to the names that I've seen in the comments. To my boy, I can't remember your name, but University of Nevada graduate, to the guy who listens to me while they fall asleep. I mean, goddamn. Thank you, everybody, so much. It really means a lot. And next year, if I run into you all again, I'll hope to have a little token of appreciation for you all. I'm sorry it didn't work out this time. And to everyone else that I met, waiting in lines for side events, coming in and out of the bathroom, filling water bottles, I can like picture a lot of your faces in my mind, but I can't remember your names. But know that that it means a lot to me. It keeps the juices flowing in terms of pumping out some more Doomsday content. So awesome, guys! Thank you so much. With that, I think this is about my Eternal Weekend experience. I guess we can end with the funny story, which is the rack of ribs that I had on the way home outside of Pittsburgh. I was talking about how I couldn't find any vegetables, and I shit you not, there was a menu. It's like this fire grill. The ribs were excellent outside of Pittsburgh on the way back. We stopped off at, and the menu had a full rack of ribs, which guaranteed came with a bowl of fruit, and then you got to pick your own side. And I mean, I love all of you, but fucking America, dude, you got to buy a you got to buy a full rack of ribs to get a bowl of fruit at a restaurant. And so yeah, I end capped my Eternal Weekend by eating some some fruit and ribs with a baked potato on the way home. That was awesome. And then shout out also, just while thinking about food, we went to Bakersfield for some tacos with Brandon. Wonder Pro was there. A bunch of non-Doomsdayers were there who were still all really cool people, including Zach, my opponent from the challenge. And I also met, I'll mess up the numbers, DD8DK. Also a really, really chill dude. Um, Captain Pratt, I think, was at this dinner as well. So there's just a number of really, really cool people that I got to hang out with. And so I didn't do very well playing Magic, but getting the cards signed, picking up some new stuff for the collection, completing Black Saga Storm, meeting all of my Doomsdayers, and some of the others from the Doomsday Discord was just awesome. And it was all in all a very, very wonderful Eternal Weekend. And I can't wait to do it again next year. So yeah, look forward to some new exciting content on the Semioticians channel. We're going to keep jamming leagues with Doomsday. We'll probably play some other decks now that Eternal Weekend's done. And then I've got some of these guest collaborations coming down the pipeline as well, to keep things interesting and spicy. So fuck yeah. Man. Oh, the last thing I have to say, what the hell am I doing? I'm sorry. I keep thinking of things. My boy Jacob Murray. My boy Jacob Murray. I'm sure that's a name that none of you probably knew going into the weekend, and now all of you know. The People's Champ, the Pox Master, Jacob Murray. He's one of my dogs. He plays with me every week almost at Waypoint Games back in Hamilton, Ontario. He's out there. He's been jamming. I mean, he took a bit of a break from the format. I mean, he was a little burnt out from it and not satisfied with the decks and how everything was working. Took a long break. Wasn't even sure if he was going to go to Eternal Weekend. Then decided that, you know what? He played, I think, Cradle Control last year. He's an excellent Magic player. Very, very good. Jammed some Cradle Control and ended up like 2 weeks before the event just deciding that he's just going to play Pox as a joke. He didn't want to pressure himself into feeling like he has to do well or anything. He just wanted to have a good time. And so, yeah, he had been practicing Cradle Control for months. I then just decided, you know what? I'm going to play Hatchery Pox. I played like 2 FNMs with it. I then just top eighted fucking Eternal Weekend like a goddamn master. And now it's like a cult leader. Bosch and Roll called him the savior of Legacy. Reed Duke commended his flawless victory, and that's just incredible. So I need to say, yeah, before signing out, I have to say, I should have said this before. Shout out to my boy Jacob Murray, the Pox Master, bringing the plague from Canada to fucking to fucking Pittsburgh. Madness. I'm setting up potentially a little chat with Jacob for the channel as well. So if you're interested, I can't guarantee that's going to happen. I'm going to chat with him probably tonight at Locals and see if we can set up a little interview where he can talk about his Pox run, because I think it's something to be celebrated. And I was so happy to see one of my good pals making it all the way to the top 8 and falling to Hans. HJ Goduk's sword is nothing to be ashamed of either. Goduk is an absolute master. Shout out to Larson as well for just being an exceptional Magic player. Yeah, this, I think now with that, I had to mention Jacob. I'm sorry I left it all the way till the end, but he deserves another shout out. He's been getting shouted out all week, but I'll shout him out again because I bore the brunt of Jacob's excellent play many times. And I feel like the only reason I'm actually good at playing Doomsday against Cradle Control is because Jacob's put me through the ringer on that deck time and time again. So shout out to the new Pox overlord, Jacob Murray. With that, this is the Semiotician signing out. I'll see you guys all again soon. Thank you so much for everything. Cheers.